Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into AI training royalties and asking the big question, will indie artists actually get paid? To really wrap our heads around this collision of AI and music rights, I want you to picture the independent music industry as this bustling, maybe slightly chaotic, claymation village. You've got artists sculpting their tracks, producers adding layers, writers crafting lyrics. It is beautiful, it's messy, and honestly, it's built on a ridiculously fragile foundation of handshakes and unread emails. So, suddenly, this giant sophisticated robot, generative AI, just stomps right into the middle of the village. The question we're answering today is, when this robot starts asking for permission to use the music, will the artists in this village actually be organized enough to cash in? Let's look at exactly how we got here. The last few years can really be summed up by this one sentiment. Artificial intelligence companies have spent the past few years treating music like an unattended buffet, literally. AI developers have historically just scraped the internet. Recordings, lyrics, album artwork, even vocal styles, all of it just scooped up into these massive data collections to train their models. And artists, they were left totally in the dark. No idea if their work was used, who took it, or if a check was ever going to show up in the mail. But the landscape is finally shifting. The industry is pushing back, slowly moving from this Wild West scraping free-for-all toward a new licensed system.
Which brings us to the concept of licensed AI systems. We actually saw a major development in July 2026 that highlights this shift. Symphonic Distribution announced a partnership with Shure AI to carve out a path for licensed AI revenue. Now, in theory, this sounds amazing, right? Artists get to explicitly opt in. Shure claims their tech can track what they call AI DNA. Basically, they break down a song, measure its exact influence on an AI model's output, and then pay the artist based on that measurable contribution. It is a massive step up from unauthorized scraping. But, and I've got to warn you here, being better than unpaid scraping is a remarkably low bar to clear.
Seriously, the barrier to entry has been so low that a raccoon with a stolen sandwich could clear it. We really have to look past the shiny new tech. Sure, Dazzle and other platforms might hand you a dashboard with glowing graphs, animated lines, maybe some cool purple lighting. But listen, a glowing dashboard is not a legal contract. It doesn't guarantee your payment rate, it doesn't give you audit rights, and it doesn't explain how disputes are handled. The actual hurdle for indie artists isn't the AI technology itself, it is the paperwork. When these companies come knocking with a licensed deal, the real question is whether artists have the actual documentation to definitively prove what they own.
To understand why this paperwork is so notoriously difficult, we've got to break down the anatomy of a song. Because while a finished track sounds like one single unified piece of art, legally and financially, it's actually divided into two distinctly different properties. First up, you have the musical composition. Think of this as the underlying song, the melody, the musical structure, the lyrics. Then you have the sound recording, which you'll often hear called the master. This is the actual recorded performance of that composition. The U.S. Copyright Office treats these as completely separate works. Registering one does not register the other, and owning one definitely does not mean you own the other.
So, how does this translate into real-world chaos? Let's introduce our fictional claymation hero, an indie artist named Carla. Now, Carla just released an absolute banger called Midnight Wi-Fi. She sees an opt-in button on her distributor's website for an AI licensing program. She thinks, awesome, free money, and gets ready to click it. But before she does, she's hit with a terrifying question. Who exactly owns Midnight Wi-Fi? Because if she doesn't actually know the answer to that, she absolutely cannot legally grant permission for an AI company to use it. And this is where we see Carla's real problem: fractional ownership. Sure, Carla sings the song, and yeah, it's released under her name on streaming platforms. But the artist's name on a streaming service is not a legal chain of title. Just look at the breakdown. Carla wrote the melody with Devin. Marisol wrote the lyrics. Carla paid Theo to produce the beat, and it turns out Theo actually licensed a drum loop from a website. Oh, and Lee dropped a guest rap verse right in the middle. So Carla just clicking a button that says, yes, I own everything, is incredibly dangerous. Her co-writers, her producer, her guest rapper, they all legally own a slice of this song. Which brings us to a very hard truth of the music industry. Handshakes at 2 a.m. have purchased vacation homes for lawyers. Seriously. When Carla and her friends were in the studio, they probably just said something like, we'll sort out the splits when the song blows up. Look, human memory is not a reliable rights database. Neither is a group text from 2019. And neither is a computer folder labeled new final master, use this one. If you want to put a recording into an AI licensing program, you need absolute authority to license every single right required.
You need actual signed documents, like split sheets, completed while everyone is still in the room and remembers exactly what they contributed. But hey, let's say you do have the contracts. Fantastic. You still need to navigate the metadata. Welcome to the alphabet soup of identifiers. To actually get paid, systems need codes to find your music. The ISRC identifies the specific sound recording or music video. The ISWC identifies the underlying musical composition. IPI numbers identify the specific songwriters or publishers, and the UPC identifies the commercial release, like the album or single package. You've got to know all of these. But remember, while these codes help computer systems locate your material, they don't prove ownership. An ISWC code does not replace a signed split sheet. Codes identify, contracts explain control.
If you own your music, but you haven't organized these contracts and codes, you're dealing with what we like to call the locked cash register. Imagine you own a beautiful store full of incredibly valuable products, but none of the products have price tags, the cash register is unplugged, the partners are fighting over ownership percentages, and the one person who actually knew the alarm password moved to another state under complicated circumstances. You technically own a business, but you literally cannot collect a dime. Owning a song creates the right to earn money from it, but catalog administration creates the actual ability to collect that money. So, how do we fix this? How do we unlock that register before the AI companies arrive? We do a 30-day catalog cleanup. I know, it's not glamorous, but it is highly profitable. Step 1, gather everything. Spreadsheets, copyright registration, split sheets, royalty statements, just dig up whatever exists. Step 2, compare. Check if your song title is spelled the exact same way across every single platform. Make sure the ISRC matches the right audio file. Step 3, contact your collaborators. Get those missing signatures. Turn those 2 a.m. handshakes into actual written agreements. And finally, step 4, update your registrations with the right matching data everywhere. Now, if that sounds like a miserable pile of boring office work, I do have a bit of good news for you. You can actually use AI to help you prepare for AI. But you have to remember the golden rule. AI is a useful office assistant. It is not the ghost of a music lawyer trapped in your laptop. You can absolutely use an AI tool to compare 2 messy spreadsheets and spot inconsistent song titles, or maybe to summarize a long, confusing producer agreement into plain English. But there is a strict limit. Do not upload sensitive private data, unreleased masters, or banking details into public AI platforms. And never, ever let an AI guess your ownership percentages or invent a missing signature. You have to stay in the driver's seat. Okay, let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. When you finally get your catalog cleaned up and you're ready to license your music to AI, how much does it actually matter? Well, if you look at a healthy artist's revenue stock, you'll notice that AI is just one new layer at the very top. It is not the entire foundation. Please do not treat AI training royalties like some magic bean that's going to suddenly rescue your entire music career. A sustainable, middle-class career in music is built on multiple, reliable streams. We're talking live shows, merchandise, publishing royalties, sync licensing, direct fan support, and now, yes, carefully chosen AI licenses. It's a piece of the puzzle for sure, but it is not the whole board. To manage that puzzle effectively over a lifetime, you need what we call the Artist Passport. This is the ultimate goal of your catalog cleanup. The Artist Passport is a secure, private, artist-owned business record for every single song you create. It documents who owns the master, who wrote the lyrics, the exact ownership splits, all those identifier codes we talked about, and specific rules about how AI can use the track. For example, your passport might explicitly state an AI can analyze the lyrics, but it absolutely cannot simulate your voice. This memory needs to live with you, not just with your distributor or publisher. Platforms change, companies close. You need true independence. And that brings us to our final critical thought for this explainer. You might own your music, but does your paperwork actually prove it? We're entering this fascinating new era where your creativity could generate entirely new revenue streams through licensed AI. But the companies building these models cannot and will not pay you if your catalog is just a tangled web of unverified claims. Ownership has to come with memory. So before you start worrying without the algorithms, take a hard look at your filing cabinet. Will you be ready to unlock the cash register when they come asking? Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.